Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the F1 word. And what a race we have just seen in Azerbaijan. 3 in a row, guys. We wanted this. It's back. Formula One is back. First of all, hello to everyone in the chat. This isn't a podcast, so we're going to be talking to you a lot more during this one. But as you can see on screen, I'm going to be joined by a few people today who I'll introduce in just a moment. Of course, I can't believe I have to say this, but spoiler alert, this is a full race debrief and we'll be giving away the full result of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Yeah, I don't really know where to start. I think we will start by having a look at the result. I think that's probably the most obvious thing to do. This is only a pending result, though, because Kimi Raikkonen is at the stewards with Esteban Ocon regarding their collision. And Sergio Perez is also at the stewards for apparently illegal use of DRS. So I've got Twitter open. I'm keeping an eye on it. If we get an update during the stream, I will, of course, update you all. But we could see Carlos Sainz on the podium by the end of all this, although I can't really see Kimi Raikkonen getting a penalty. It was Lewis Hamilton who took victory for Mercedes from Kimi Raikkonen. And at the moment, as I say, Sergio Perez. Sebastian Vettel P4 from pole. We will get into the ins and outs of it in just a moment. Carlos Sainz P5. Charles Leclerc. Don't think I've ever been happier to see a guy cross the line in P6. So happy for him. Alonso, great recovery from him. Same for McLaren with Van Dorn as well. 7th and 9th for them. Stroll, great drive. P8, fantastic for Williams. Brendan Hartley's first points. Marcus Ericsson, 11th. Pierre Gasly, 12th. Magnussen, 13th. Just 13 technically classified. I think Bottas is officially classified, but he didn't finish the race for me. That's Bottas, Grosjean, Verstappen and Ricciardo. Hulkenberg, Ocon and Sirotkin all out. Yes, now a year ago, if you've been around on the channel for a while, it was the 26th of June, I think. I renamed my channel, called it the F1 word. And my first ever line on YouTube was something along the lines of, I don't think I've ever looked at a Formula One podium before and gone, how the hell did you three get there? I think, quite frankly, that sums it up quite nicely. John T, good evening, mate. What the hell happened there?
Yeah, what the hell did we just watch?
That was absolutely, we want this. This is 3 races in a row. We could just forget Australia. We said it earlier, it was the warm up. That was absolutely, if you ignore the lull in the middle, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I was a bit worried around that 15. We had a good 15 laps of yawn,
Yeah.
but it certainly picked up thanks to a couple of charging balls. That didn't go well.
No, I mean, we might talk about that in a bit. I don't know if that's going to be a major topic in people's minds. I don't know. But talking about Red Bull, before we start dissecting all of that, for the first time in a while, good evening, Ryan.
Hello, Sean.
How you doing, mate? Are you good?
Well,
Well,
as you
well
will
yeah.
know in the next few minutes, I am steaming. As you well know, and John T knows this from speaking to him before you started, I am infuriated is the word I could describe about the race. But it was a cracker at the same time. So what can
It
I
was,
say?
yeah. What more do you want? It was brilliant. Of course, for anybody that's not sure, Ryan is a Red Bull fan. Yes. So this
Yes.
could get very, very interesting. We should be joined by Chaz a little bit later as well, possibly just for Q&A, but it just depends on when he gets his video up of the race. I don't really know where to start, John T. Where do you want to start? I'm going to let you call this one.
Well, we should start at the start. Certainly Mr. Raikkonen and Mr. Ocon.
Starting at the start. That is a bloody good idea, mate. That is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, how do you call that incident? I'm kind of a little bit with Paul di Resta on this one, if I'm being honest, because he says that Ocon should have given a bit more space. It's the first lap. You know, do we really need a penalty for that? For me personally, I don't think there's really much in that. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Maybe I'm in the minority there.
Yeah, I would agree with that on that occasion, but Raikkonen had been trying to stick his nose up the inside, the 2 corners previously. And Ocon hadn't been aware of it, but well, he probably was aware of it, but Raikkonen wasn't quite close enough to really make a go of it. And on this occasion, when he was closer, Ocon tried to close the door and obviously closed it a bit too hard. But it is a difficult one to call. It's probably racing incident. Raikkonen should have backed out a bit. Ocon should have left more room. Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah, I think I don't know about you, Ryan, but it's the sort of thing we see quite often is first lap accidents tend to get ignored unless there is somebody predominantly to blame. Do you think that's kind of where we are with this one?
I agree. I feel, but we know Baku is one of those circuits where there is going to be a safety car, whatever's going to happen. And again, first lap. And I just want to point out the fact regarding Ocon's incident with Raikkonen that Ocon did leave room. He left the door open for Raikkonen to go for that move. I think he squeezed him just a tiny bit, and it would have been even catastrophically worse. Both of them, if Kimi could have retired as well, and could have piled up, and then red flags galore would happen. But yeah, all happening. Then you see further back from them, the whole Sorokin, Alonso contact as well. He retired. Sorokin's out. Alonso, I have to admit, 10 out of 10 for getting back to the pits, though. I give him credit for that with a double puncher.
Yeah,
I respect him for that, but that was dangerous. I have to admit, but fair play.
channeling his inner Gilles Villeneuve there, definitely. Yeah, of course, then the Sorokin contact as well. You forget about that. So much has happened. I have taken notes, but I don't know if they make any sense to me, so we're a bit screwed on that front. But yeah, I mean, on that incident, I kind of feel, without starting this argument up again, that Sorokin was kind of in a similar position to that Verstappen was in Singapore last year, in that really, aside from completely evaporating, there's not really a lot he could have done in that position.
No, I'd agree with that. He kind of put himself in a position where there was no way out of it. He could have maybe backed out a bit earlier, but as soon as you had the Renault squeezing in on him, it was game over. Someone was going to come off worse, and he was the unlucky one.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him. He's actually, Williams as a whole have had a really good weekend, and I felt a bit sorry for Sorokin because, yeah, he had his crash in FP3, but qualified well. He was on for points today. If you look at it's one of those races again where you look back and there could have been big points here for some of the lower down teams, as we saw, of course, with Leclerc and almost with Ericsson. But yeah, I mean, Alonso was pretty miffed. I think I called it the understatement of the year on Twitter. I think that was kind of, he wasn't happy. And could Alonso have won this race, Ryan, the way it sort of panned out in the end?
No.
Let's
be honest, no. That Renault, the McLaren, is not at its best, but as they say, Spain is going to be their Spec 2 car, and we expect to see them higher up. I doubt that, considering what they've always said in their bold statements over the last couple of seasons. But again, we know Baku's unpredictable, and as we've seen today, Perez on a podium, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So there has been some unpredictability, and maybe, but I doubt he would have won. But he would have been up for a podium if he didn't have the damage on the floor that he picked up during the incident with Hulkenberg and Sorokin early in the race. That kind of cost him. But I mean, a podium was a definite opportunity for him. No way a win.
One man who, for me, based on the early stage of that race, should absolutely have been in contention for that podium, possibly on the podium, Jonty. I swore a bit on Twitter when it happened. Nico Hulkenberg, gutted for him. That guy cannot catch a break, can he? I mean, it looks like his own error. I don't think we've heard anything to the contrary, but still, should have had a podium. He was on for it. I gutted for him. Gutted. Yeah,
I mean, you look at where other people have come in his area of fighting, and that was going to be a certain podium. So, certainly with how it all panned out at the end. He just can't catch a break. He really can't.
Such a shame. For you look at how well Sainz was going. I mean, they were obviously the ultra softs were part of the reason, but they were so quick versus the Red Bulls, and they were in that mix. And I mean, Sainz could still end up on the podium if the FIA or the stewards decide to take action against Raikkonen or Perez. But actually, on Perez, even if he gets a 5-second penalty, he still gets the podium. So, be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But yeah, just gutted for Hulkenberg. I'm starting to wonder, without sounding too defeatist for him, if he's just one of those guys that is just destined never to get a podium.
He's one of those. You've seen it before, Brazil, when he was leading. Could have won that, could have been on the podium. He just has bad luck. Literally, he has something stopping him getting that podium. But yeah, it's just unlucky, really. Looking back, just an unfortunate incident, really. 3 wide down a straight. It's easy considering that part of the track is that wide, and they just squeezed into like a little sandwich, and 3 don't tangle, really. So it was a shame because, as you saw from Sainz, that Renault was quite competitive around there, which I was actually quite surprised about. During the weekend, like Friday and Saturday practice, they weren't up to speed, and then today they just literally come out of nowhere. Sainz cracking start and delivered today. I think he was just down on strategy. I think that could have cost him a definite podium, but going a bit earlier, maybe on those ultra softs.
Dispatch those Red Bulls a bit quicker, maybe they'd have been a bit further up the road, wouldn't they? But like you say, he was too late to switch onto the soft Sainz. He lost all that. He was on the drop off. I mentioned Red Bull there.
Can I just jump in with some breaking news?
Yep.
Yeah, Sorokin has been handed a 3-place grid penalty for the next race for that first lap collision.
What?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't usually swear on these, but bollocks, quite frankly. What?
Yeah.
I agree.
How that can be his fault, I have no idea.
So why did Verstappen not get a penalty in Singapore last year then?
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
the exact same incident.
Wow. I think maybe there, without getting into too much of a conspiracy about it, little bit more proof there that if you're in a lower down team, you're going to get treated a bit harder than you do if you're one of the top three. But, well, that's crap, quite frankly.
Oh, hang on, more news coming in thick and fast because the
Breaking
stewards
news
are
from
busy.
Jonty.
Oh,
Both Lance Stroll and Kevin Magnussen are under investigation for unauthorized DRS use as well.
Oh, that's going to hurt Stroll.
Like,
Where is he? Yeah.
this is another thing that's really irritating me at the minute with the stewards and all the FIA. We know it was manual, obviously, because they had an issue with the automatic DRS malarkeys going on, but it's not the driver's fault.
No.
It's the FIA's fault. I'm sorry, if anyone gets a penalty for that, it is a load. I'm sorry to say this, John and Sean, but it's a load of bollocks. Literally, it is a load of crap. It's not their fault. It's the FIA's fault. And they said, "Oh, this automatic technology works and all that. It's great." No, it's not. Sort it out. Seriously, it's not working.
I
Oh,
just can't, I can't get over that, and I've been critical of Sirotkin this season, and I was through the winter as well, as everyone will know. I've had some hate for it as well, but he doesn't deserve that. Aside from evaporating, there's nothing he can do in that position, and that's ridiculous. And I was praising the stewards, not last weekend, probably Bahrain, for the consistency they'd shown in 2018 with the way they were throwing the penalties out. But yeah, whether it's something that we haven't seen and they're going to be harder on incidents like that, I don't know. But there's just no consistency there at all. If no Verstappen hate, if this is the penalty system, then he should have got a penalty for that in Singapore. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, let's keep an eye on that news, John. See, I'm keeping an eye on Twitter, but I'm sure you know, I'm doing 1,001 things at once here. So we're gonna have to talk about Red Bull. I don't want to, but we're gonna do it. It kind of, I put on Twitter, hands up all those who expect Red Bull to be in tears by the end of this. It was coming, wasn't it, Ryan? There's no denying this was going to happen.
oh, the flashbacks of Turkey. It's coming back around again. I literally, when I saw this coming, I was like, why aren't Red Bull doing the gutsy decision of just saying to Max, pull out the way, let Ricciardo through for a bit, and if it doesn't work, we'll exchange the positions back. Yes, they've come out on Twitter saying there's no team orders and all that, which I think is a lot of crap. Ricciardo was the quicker of the two at the time, and this is my opinion. I know I get slated in the comments for this, but that's how I feel.
Ah, he was. He was comfortably the quicker of the two, and
He was the quickest.
yeah.
And there needs to be team orders in this sort of situation. And Ricciardo could have easily had a chance of a podium today, in my opinion, with all the safety cars and all that around. If you take into consideration, he was the quicker of the two over the course of the weekend. If you looked at the practice sessions, the qualifying, Ricciardo was quicker. Max's defending at times was good. There were some cracking battles. I won't dispute that. 90% of the battles was fine. Literally, was great battling and good for us to watch. Some of it was a little bit aggressive. We saw Will banging at turn one. I can't remember what lap it was. But it's lots of people. Sky are saying racing incident. Corn Paul, the rest are saying it's a racing incident. I personally don't believe that. It's a tough one. I'm going to admit, for the cause of the crash, I'm still undecided with this one. So I think you may have to come back to me, Sean, on that one, because I'm still decrypting my thoughts on this. Because
No, you're right. I'm struggling with it. It's a tough one. And depending on which onboard you watch or which angle you could put it, it could be racing incident Ricciardo's fault or Verstappen's fault, depending on which one you're looking at. But John T, what's your take on it all initially?
My first reaction was it was all Max's fault. That was moving way too far under braking. But now I'm watching it a bit more. Danny was so late on the brakes, he was never going to make the corner, regardless of whether he hit Max or not. So it's very difficult to call now.
he did lock up. I know that.
Yeah,
I
and
do agree with you, John T, on that. For the fact that Ricardo was trying to be ballsy. We saw it last time in China, how late he can brake and got past Bottas. He left it way too late for that corner, and he wasn't even going to make the corner. Even if he locked up, there was no way he was going to avoid Verstappen. It was literally going to be, oh, here we go, boom, into the back of Verstappen, and they went on there. But
Yeah, I mean, there's also the big point a lot of people have made that because they were so close together, he locked up because of the huge loss of front downforce. It's just going to be one of those divisive ones. This argument is going to rage all week, possibly 2 weeks, between the two different camps of Red Bull fans, which is going to be really fun to watch for me, to be quite honest. But it's an incident Max didn't need to have. He should have been doing everything to avoid any kind of incident with the way his season's gone so far.
And this is just going to fuel the Ferrari Ricciardo speculations even more. Ricciardo, at this point, will be thinking, why want to be here when, obviously, let's be honest, the team are going more to Max Verstappen than Ricciardo, in my personal opinion, going forward in the future. Max is that young guy. He's going to be, in some people's eyes, a future world champion, but this is definitely, and also in my opinion as well, he's just downgraded himself. He's slowly becoming the Pastor Maldonado of F1 at the minute, and we don't want that. We know Max is a very talented kid, and he's just, his reputation is just dropping and dropping and dropping, and my respect for him has dropped a lot over the last couple of races today, and obviously last time in China as well. And that's what because I like the kid. He's a great driver along with Ricciardo, and they're the two hot prospects in terms of teammates and potential champions down the line to help Red Bull get back to where they were in the glory days of Vettel and Mark Webber. And this is just not what, for a Red Bull fan myself, I did not want to see this, and I'm now concerned that this is going to be the same thing again throughout the rest of the season unless Christian Horner and Helmut Marko get their heads together, bang them, and like, we don't want this anymore. You're costing us valuable points in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari and Mercedes have just gone. They're now fighting with the likes of Renault and McLaren for third place in the Constructors' Championship, and that's not that I didn't want us to see, but at the minute it is going to be like that, and it's just so infuriating to see.
I think
But
for me, what I see in that incident and what I saw throughout the weekend is Max Verstappen, who has faced a lot of criticism for the last couple of weeks. Some of it absolutely well deserved, and some of it just, for me, a bit bandwagony without starting any kind of argument. I think some people are just jumping on he's an idiot, and not really looking at it all. But to me, it just absolutely looks like a man under huge pressure, or in some people might say a boy under huge pressure, Jonty. That's kind of how, when I look at the way he was defending against his teammate and I look at that accident, it just looks like a guy under big pressure.
Yeah, I mean, you're both right. You're definitely right. There's a situation where Horner should have been on the radio saying, Max, this is enough. Let him past. He's quicker. You need to behave. Yeah. He really needs a bit of a kick, to be quite honest. He's letting his position in the team get far too much to his head, because it is clear that they're favouring him. But he is coming down to earth with a bit of a bang. It's just a case of how far down he comes.
We always talk about team orders and not really wanting them. We want to see drivers racing whether they're in the team or not together. But there does come a point that anybody with a brain can look at a situation and say, look, chances of you guys winning the Drivers' Championship, yeah, Daniel Ricciardo could be in with a shot, but you see again this weekend a power track, if you like, with that long straight. They're not really there, not quite enough. There has to be a point where they think constructors and think, let's get these guys home in one piece, but they didn't. And in some ways, I want to applaud Red Bull for letting them race, but then from a team perspective, and this is a team sport, it is the Constructors' Championship that pays the money, really there probably should have been something said. And a few people, saying, and I think you said it as well, Ryan, Ricciardo's position at Red Bull now, question marks about whether he wants to go to Ferrari. I can promise you that would never happen at Ferrari, because he wouldn't be allowed to race Sebastian Vettel. So, quite frankly, without starting that argument up. But I'm surprised that Red Bull didn't say, just bring it home, boys. And I'm also surprised Red Bull allowed Verstappen to get back ahead after the pit stops.
Yeah, Ricardo had a very poor outlap. I think he
Yeah.
got held up, and that's what cost him.
His pit
But
stop was slower as well, I think, than Verstappen's, to be fair.
yeah, there's that as well. But it's just those. I mean, the tyres were shocking, like just to get up to temperature. It's very cold. Azerbaijan it was compared to what we normally had last year when it was warmer. Tyres are like straight away bang up to temperature, especially the quickest tyre. And we saw that with Lewis later in the race when he went onto the softs. Took him, I think it was like 6 laps just to get it up to temperature, which is quite a shock, really, for me to say that. But yeah, literally,
Yeah.
that was a key moment in that race. I thought Verstappen did pretty good on his in lap, really, to get ahead of Ricardo. But again, it's just one of those, really. And
Yeah, probably gonna upset a few with this next statement. A few in the chat saying that we're talking BS and Ferrari don't ever use team orders. Can I suggest you pick up a book? That's all I'm going to say on that one, because they bloody well do and have done historically. And in fairness to Ferrari, without getting into this debate, to be fair to them, they're pretty open about that. So yeah, I suggest. But also, Erudito with a contribution there. We have got record views for this live stream, which has just made me very nervous. 1,691, but I think we did just tick over 1,700. So if you are new, don't forget to hit that sub button. And also, it's awesome to have you here. We are quite strong with the odd opinion, aren't we, John Tiz? I kind of probably just proved there. But you'll love it in the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I missed that in the chat. Were people really saying in the chat that Ferrari don't use team orders?
I saw 3, I think. Yeah.
2010, Germany.
I mean, I can quote it verbatim from the most famous one. Rubens, please move over to let Michael through for the championship.
Yeah.
Those are the exact words. And then you've got the whole Fernando is faster than you.
That's the most famous one, I think, isn't it, for a lot of the newer fans?
If that's not, and that's an illegal team order. They should have been
Yeah.
To be fair, they should have been kicked out of the championship for that.
Agree, yeah. We'll not get into the Ferrari debate, though.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's I'm not going to ask the chat this one, because I've got one for them later to upset the mods. I'm going to ask you, Jonty, then, in as few words as possible, who is to blame for the incident with Red Bull, or is it just a racing incident?
I'm going to put it down to on track a racing incident, but it's the team to blame for not controlling their drivers.
Ryan?
I've been thinking about this. I've got to be very careful what I say here, but I do have to agree with Jonty on this one. Yes, Max defended. He took the defensive line. He stuck to that one line. Ricardo obviously broke way too late for the corner, locked up and smacked into him. So I have to agree. It's a racing incident, but should have done team orders, and they would not be in the situation they're in right now.
For me, honestly, Max moves twice. They're not big, aggressive moves. Ricardo is already halfway down that straight. He's committed to the move. He's made that decision. Had Daniel run into the back of him because of the 2 moves, and only because of that, I would say it's Max's fault, but because Ricardo was well committed to that move, was going for it regardless. 50-50, maybe 60-40 to Max, but not enough for me to say that driver is absolutely 100% at fault. And it's tough because I do like to blame somebody. When I look at an incident, I like to have somebody to blame because it's difficult. But I'm going to have to say racing incident. But I've got a review going up tomorrow, and it might have changed by then. I'm going to watch it again and watch a few more replays and go from there. This is just initial reactions everywhere. Somebody just reminded me in the chat there, actually. John T, Romain Grosjean. We're talking about men under pressure. That was a bit embarrassing, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. No, it's not Grosjean's fault at all. Ericsson hit him from 300 yards away.
Oh, don't. That's another Harry Kane meme waiting to go, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my phone battery died halfway through the race, and it's totally Ericsson's fault.
Okay.
What is Roman doing? I mean, that started off on Twitter. Loads of people were blaming everything, like stubbing their toe. Oh, must have been hit by Ericsson.
Well, this is the sort of thing we were, honestly, through the winter expecting from Magnussen, weren't we?
Yeah.
That's the weird thing.
I mean, that was a very embarrassing move. And to say he was hit by someone when there was actually no one else within at least 100 yards of him at the time. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
A guy under pressure, as I said, we thought Magnussen was going to get destroyed by him this year, and it's just not happening. But yeah, we'll not get too much into that one. Lewis Hamilton then won the race, Ryan. A lot of luck involved. I don't think anybody can deny that. Even the biggest Lewis Hamilton fans will have to accept that it's lucky. In fact, Hamilton himself didn't look particularly full of joy, did he, with it? I mean, he did get lucky, but he's come out despite this big disaster and these crisis talks at Mercedes, winning the race and top of the Drivers' Championship.
I have to agree with you on that fact that I wasn't expecting Hamilton to win this, if I was
No.
honest. It was quite a surprise. And you could just see from his reaction when he got out the car, you'd be like, yeah, won a race. He just had a straight face all the time. I was just like, Lewis, you just won a race. You're leading the championship. Be more happy with yourself. But he had luck on his side. His win was a luck, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's struggling on his tires. Like at the start, he was like 4 seconds off the end of like 2 laps. I was like, oh, this is going to be a straightforward win for Vettel. But he came back, to be fair, and but I think one of the key moments in the race, which I thought, yeah, he's gone win, was he had a double lock up into one, and he had to pit early to go onto the soft tire. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it took him like 6-7 laps just to get those tires up to temperature, and lost ahead of Bottas. When he came to the pits, yes, a safety car came into it to help Bottas out, but I think Bottas would have easily overtook him if it was normal conditions on the ultra softs, got past Hamilton, and Bottas would be winning the race. So obviously, we know what happened to Bottas, which was kind of unlucky, if I'm honest with you, and bit angry with that one with the FIA, which I hope maybe we'll go into later.
We will.
But overall, and yeah, as you said, the Hamilton fanboys will agree, should hopefully agree, that Hamilton's race was a lucky one to win today, and all of them will be happy that he's leading the championship now. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, you look at Vettel in Australia. He got lucky with the safety car. I said at the time, which got me a lot of stick, that these things come back round and people benefit from them, and Hamilton's benefited from safety cars and a bit of luck this time. That's any world champion has had luck at some point, haven't they, Jonty, in their title bid? So it's kind of how I see this one. But I'm not going to say it's an undeserved win, because you have to be there to capitalise on that luck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he wasn't super quick at all for most of the weekend. He pulled out a couple of good laps in Q3, but the race pace, he was nowhere. But he was still up there enough to be able to capitalise on that safety car. And it just shows the swings and roundabouts. He was the one moaning the most about the safety car after Australia, but he's not moaning about it now.
No. I think that's, yeah. I mean, he kept it clean, stayed out of trouble, was there. He wasn't particularly quick, but, at the end of the day, he's won it. Got a bit lucky, got to be there to capitalise, as I was just saying. So not a lot really I can say about his drive. I mean, he wasn't happy early in the race. I think that's fair to say. A bit of a moany weekend, but under pressure, rough start to the season, so you can kind of understand it a little bit. I hate hearing it. I hate having so much team radio anyway. I've said that before. It's not something I'm a big fan of, but probably one of the big reasons he got the win, or probably the only reason he got the win, was Valtteri Bottas. He got a puncture. I feel so sorry for that guy, Jonty, because it was great strategy play by Mercedes, risking a safety car, got on the ultra softs. He was on for it. It would have been a great scrap with Vettel, and only FIA stupidity sees Valtteri Bottas out of the race.
Yeah, it is FIA stupidity, but David Coulthard, after his idiotic statements about Ricciardo, I won't go into that, did make a good point that he should have been able to see that. That wasn't a tiny piece of debris. We spotted it on the TV before he hit it, and earlier in the race, Vettel had spotted even smaller pieces around the first sector of the lap, where it's under tree cover, dark and light shadows, making things difficult to see, and he was able to spot small pieces there. On the big, wide open straight, he should have seen that. He really should have seen that, but he probably had so much pressure on him to win after should have won in Bahrain. Maybe that was difficult, but he really should have seen it.
Yeah, part of me agrees with you, but my argument is that debris should not be there. The safety car should have stayed out to clear it. Or if, as I said earlier in the race, if there was that much debris, they didn't have time to clear it, red flag it.
Yeah, that's true. And there was another point made. They're not actually certain it was there at the end of the safety car. Some people thinking it could have come from, I can't remember whose car, but on the restart, there was a few people scrapping towards the back, and it could have come from there. So it wasn't to be removed while the safety car was out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Just off topic a little bit, Max Verstappen has just tweeted and he says, this result is really disappointing for the team. It doesn't matter who is to blame. It just shouldn't have happened. So many people are working hard to improve our cars and they deserve an apology. So Red Bull very much playing the, we're not going to lay blame card. So there you go. Just thought I'd read that one to you. But what's your take on that debris then, Ryan? Do you think race should have been stopped or Bottas should have been a bit more careful?
Well, if I'm honest with you, they should have kept the safety car out at the end, like for a little bit longer. It's on the racing line, and we've seen some drivers move that far to the left, obviously to do with the crosswind of the wind was coming because it was blustery today over the weekend, and it was causing effect. And we saw it in qualifying as well yesterday, like Vettel putting to the left-hand side. So to John C's point, obviously I do accept his point. On my side, you got to think about they're going at like 200 odd miles an hour, and going that quick and not seeing a bit of debris, that's a bit of an issue. But there was also the tree branch as well.
That was hilarious.
Half a
like,
tree on track.
If someone was going for an overtake down there with DRS, what would have happened? Like, it is that dangerous, and they should have like gone slap bang safety car, or even a virtual safety car would have been ideal, depending on if it was that close, if there was a car putting out and trying to make a move. But when they had that long safety car for Grosjean's incident, I mean, they should have had it. I mean, Sebastian was on the radio saying like it was saying, "Oh, there's debris there, at points," and on the other side you got Ricciardo like wants to get going, Alonso wants to get going as well. And I mean, being a steward is hard, obviously. You can't get everything right, but on this occasion, they should have checked every part of the circuit with the safety car, with the drivers giving input, and making sure that there's no debris on the track. Because if there wasn't, Valtteri would have won this race. And it's a shame that had to happen because, as you said, Mercedes pulled off a crack of a strategy to get that right. To keep Bottas out, he was setting identical pace, even quicker than the Vettel and Hamilton were, and on very old tyres. And it's just cost him. And I think the picture sums up with him looking absolutely just like devastated on a barrier, looking absolutely depressed. And I feel sorry for the guy. And I think a lot of people in chat would agree with me. It was his race to win, just on a purely brilliant strategy call, and it just went away.
Oh yeah, it was. It's just the fact that no one can be certain of if the debris was there before the safety car went in or not. That's the problem.
Oh, I do agree on that, and there should be more input from the drivers, maybe. Obviously, more cameras, like like just to see like each point in the circuit and go, okay, we see debris there. We need someone to clean that up right now. They just need to be more assertive, the FIA, and just double check everything. Every single part of the circuit is fine on the racing line.
Yeah,
Off the racing line could be a question, but
yeah, I mean, 'cause it was so scrappy on the restart. They should have been double checking behind where the cars had been to make sure there wasn't new debris.
But there's that many cameras around the circuit and onboards and stuff like that. How's nobody spotted that? And I completely get your point, Jonty, about Bottas having to keep an eye out for it. But he, like Ryan said, going at 200 plus miles an hour, the marshals are standing still in that area. They should be spotting that. And at the end of the day, as well, when you look at how chaotic restarts are in Azerbaijan, you only have to go back a year to see what it was like in Baku last year. This needs to not happen again. It will happen again. We'll have this debate many times over the years, I'd imagine. But
just quickly, sorry. Perez confirmed P3.
He is P3, so there we go. He is going to keep good.
There's one thing I've just seen in the chat which is irritating me even more right now. Someone says I really don't care about debris on the track. You're putting someone's life at risk with that, and we saw it with Justin Wilson with debris at Pocono. I know it's not F1, but I want to put this into consideration with debris. He lost his life, and if someone went over that debris, flung across, yes, there's the halo, but we don't know if it's actually effective because no one's hit something yet. it could have caused a massive incident. So I'm a little bit annoyed about that comment that I've seen in the chat. So
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, what if it
it's-
was his front tyre that had been punctured?
exactly.
Then he loses all control, potentially goes airborne.
Yeah, or loses it sideways, and the drivers coming at 200 miles an hour have no chance to avoid it. Well, they could avoid it because it is a long straight there, but you don't know these things, and could have hit it, could have gone airborne, as you said, could have gone into the crowd or anything like that, or God, I know I'm being being a bit ambitious with this statement, but it is dangerous on there, and there could have been a death. And people who are putting in chat that there's no point about debris picking it up and all that is just stupid. People are at risk in this race, like racing their heart out to win a race or even score points for a team like Sauber, like Leclerc today. But you're putting someone's life at risk, keeping that debris on the track. And for people to say that they shouldn't be clearing that up is just absolutely ridiculous. And it really annoys me that people would say that. Sorry for the rant.
No, pretty much what he said. You know, you have to react in Formula One. It's debris is a dangerous thing. I know it wasn't on track; it came from the back of another car, but debris nearly killed Felipe Massa. You know, it is important, and you have to think about what if, because if we didn't think what if, the halo wouldn't be strapped on the car. These cars wouldn't be as safe as they are. So I do think that the debris is an important point, and it did cost the race. It did decide the race. But to move on, before we get to debris talk, if that's even a thing, Sebastian Vettel's move on, or attempted move on Valtteri Bottas right towards the end on the restart, John T. I said on Twitter at the time that was unnecessary, Seb. Watching it back, he's got to go for it. You know, you look at all the criticism we've thrown at Bottas and others have for not making that move in Bahrain. Ricciardo quite critical of him, and you look at the moves by Ricciardo in China, he has to go for that, doesn't he? Because he doesn't know Bottas is going to get a puncher in a lap's time.
Yeah, you've got to go for that. I mean, you got to look at the position he was in. He had 9-point lead in the championship. He's in a position where he can risk a few points at this stage. So, yeah, go for it. He hasn't got all that much to lose. He's still going to be right in there. So, absolutely go for it. And it wasn't like he was going for a tiny, non-existent half-inch gap. It was a quite obvious gap that he could make. He just completely screwed it up.
It's one of those, isn't it? He has to send it. If it comes off, it's a brilliant move. If it goes wrong, then people say he looks stupid. And it is a 50-50. We saw in F2 drivers making that move really late on the brakes, locking up and still making the corner. It just didn't work out from this time. So I'm not going to say too much on it, because I think it's almost a nothing incident, really. He's gone for it. It's not come off. Next time it probably will, and we'll all be talking about it very differently. But I think it's because you know that Bottas gets the puncture. With hindsight, a lap later, Vettel probably would have won the race from that point. And he's another guy, actually. I don't feel sorry for him in the same way that I do Bottas, but he pretty much had the race under control until the Red Bull incident. So he's kind of quite unlucky in that respect as well, not to have been up there. But at the same time, as we said so many times on this channel, sometimes luck goes for you and luck goes against you. I'm just going to pull in, because he's arrived. He has finished his video and he is here, and say hello to Chaz. How did you like that race, mate?
I absolutely loved it, and from start to finish, even though there was a dull point for like 12, it was like 10 or 12 laps, it was absolutely brilliant. And I want to ask you guys, compared to last year, how good was this race?
So I still think last year is better, because it didn't really have that lull, did it? If that makes sense.
The first 13 laps, though, last year were quite
true.
You know, so it's probably equal for me. But yeah, it was a great race.
Yeah, I just think it was brilliant. I've just seen a couple of people in chat bringing up the famous "if you don't go for a gap, Senna" quote. I'm not going to get too ranty on that one, but go back and look at the incident that he said that after, because I don't ever take that seriously. It's a great quote, and I completely understand it and agree with it in many ways, but when you look at it in context, I don't think that's really a great one to use an example. But yeah, I'm in one of those moves today, Chaz, where I'm pretty pumped and been a bit bitchy, quite frankly. One man who I said was one to watch, so I'm taking a little bit of smugness from that, because it's the fourth race and that's the first one I've got right. Charles Leclerc, P6, John T. As said at the start, I don't think I've ever been happier to see a guy cross the line in sixth place.
Oh, yeah, it was an amazing drive. It wasn't just keeping out of trouble. He was actually pretty quick, and he was taking the fight to faster cars. It was wonderful to see. And even better, that's what, 8 points now? So that means he's only got to
Yeah.
get 2 more points, and then I was right before Christmas.
No. Hang on. Where is it? Hang on. No.
I had to try.
Your words were he will get 10 points finishes, not score 10 points. Nice try, mate. I've got them all written down for every stream. You are doomed. Yeah, I know he has got lucky, hasn't he, Ryan, because of all the incidents. But again, as we said with Hamilton, you've got to be there to capitalise on that. Well deserved. He's looked quick all weekend. What, P11 was it in Q1?
Yeah. I think it was 12th overall in qualify. 12. I could be wrong.
Started 13th because of penalties, I think. But yeah,
13. But I mean, that Sauber looked pretty damn good today.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I mean, they did bring us a few upgrades for this race, as the teams have done. But I knew Charles would be one of those drivers that would get points this year. I think he's, as we've seen him in GP2 or F2 now, he was a talented driver. And coming here, I think he won in the feature race and finished second in the sprint. So he's got good knowledge of the circuit. And he overtook like Fernando Alonso. Yes, but of course, there's a Ferrari engine compared to a Renault engine.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But he was keeping like the likes of Raikkonen behind him for a bit, and Sainz as well. Got past Stroll. I mean, he is a very talented kid, and I said this at the start of the season that if he impresses this year, he is going to be in great contention for a Ferrari seat next year. Obviously, that my mindset's changed now with what's happened today with Ricciardo. But he's just said, "Look, I'm here. Big teams, you want me? This is what I've done." And he's pushing that Sauber to territories where I would not really expect them, and I wasn't really thinking he would get 6th place today or 7th. My mind's blown away with this. So, good for him. And I think it's the first points finish for a Monaco driver since like 1950. I think it was the Monaco Grand Prix, which is a hell of a long time. So
Yeah.
props to him, and a great starting block for him to get interest from Ferrari to say, sign me up next year with Kimi's contract running out this year.
I tell you what as well, I love how F1 works. Marcus Ericsson's points finish was the 50th race without points. This was Sauber's highest finish for 50 races. I love how that seems to work in Formula 1. Some breaking news. It's not actually going to affect the result at all. 10-second time penalty and 2 penalty points for Kevin Magnussen for his collision with Pierre Gasly. There you go. Makes no odds to the result. Yeah, really good day and really good weekend overall for Leclerc. Chaz, I am really happy for him.
Yeah, I am too. He was, from practice 1, he's just been on it, and he's been very quick. And in the race, not only was he overtaking cars that you wouldn't expect him to overtake, but he was keeping up with the Red Bulls. Like, I think he was a second behind for like 6 or 7 laps. That's incredible. He's in a Sauber that's like 1.5 seconds at least slower than the Red Bull, and he was right on their tail for 6 or 7 laps. And for me, by an absolute mile, he is driver of the day. There is no doubt about it.
Well, Chaz, it's interesting you should say that. I love you, ST, and I'm so sorry. In the chat, all 1,500 of you, in one surname, who is your driver of the day? I am already waiting for DMs on Discord with a middle finger. Yeah, so just let us know your driver of the day. I would have to say Leclerc as well.
What I was going to say Grosjean before he crashed.
Yeah,
because he did a stellar job to get where he was, and then he just absolutely bottled it, like I would do in a race, in an esports race, like I do always. But after that, slam dunk Leclerc. I mean, you can't fault us. A crappy Sauber car, and he gets what? Gets 8 points. It's ridiculous, and they're ahead of Williams, I think, in the points.
Yeah,
I think they're like 8th for the championship, constructors championship. I could be wrong on that one, but they're fighting with the mid pack, which is great. It's great, and yeah, it is a definite drive of the day. Easy. I think it's the easiest of the season. I think.
I would love to sit here and read all your drivers of the day. There's no way I could keep up with that. From what I can see, a lot of Leclerc, a few saying Alonso, quite a few actually saying Perez. I think now that he's confirmed as that podium, I think either way he deserves a shout in there, definitely. Some saying Bottas, maybe.
I will say Sainz. He was very
Yeah,
good today.
Very good call, yeah.
Very, very good.
About you, Jonty, driver of the day. Now it's all calmed
Oh,
down.
No, it has to be Leclerc. It really does. You just can't knock that in that car.
I'd say I'm going to give him a shout out. I did it on Twitter as well. Lance Stroll. I think not the driver of the day, but I think he drove bloody well this weekend. In fact, Williams as a whole looked really good. And I think, I think he deserves a bit of credit for that one as well.
I'd say with Stroll, that's probably one of his best, if not his best race of his career so far in F1. Considering the car and how bad it is, to put it up in 11th and then finish 8th and actually, overtake people.
I think this is a big confidence boost.
Yeah.
I think for Williams and Williams fans out there, because there's been speculation about that team this week about them wanting to become like a B team to Mercedes, like Hassar to Ferrari, and apparently they need to make these changes happen for 2020. 2020. If it doesn't happen, they could fold. That team could fold, which we don't want to see because it is an independent team, historic one.
Yep.
And they needed this result today. Big points for them. They'll be happy to go home. Sorokin was a bit unlucky, but he had pace as well. And it's been a good track for them, Baku, over the years. They've had strong qualifyings here. They've had good finishes here with Bottas when he was there. And obviously last year was Stroll getting third. Well, would have been second, but unfortunately someone beat him. So that one, a certain ex-driver of theirs. And then this year, as Chaz is pointing out, Williams is crap this year. Going to put it straight out there. And he's particularly done well.
Just taking Chaz on his point on sort of Stroll's best drive, and I come to you on it, Jonty. I'm going to disagree slightly because I know we went from 11th to 8th, but yes, it was a podium last year, and that's not why I'm saying it, but he went from 8th to 3rd last year, and I kind of think, even with all the chaos, I think that's a better drive, but it's definitely one of his best drives.
I'd say this was a better one, personally, just because, we still had drama, but he had to fight a lot more for this one.
Yeah.
Last year, pretty much all he did was stay out of the way, and there was it was quite a bit more attritional last year. There was 9 cars which would usually have been ahead of him that were out. Advancing the 5 places doesn't seem quite as good.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah, that's a very fair point. It's not really breaking news. About 4 minutes ago, Christian Horner insisting that both Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen were to blame for the collision. It's like I say, team very much taking the middle road. I'll come to you one at a time then. Oh, has Jonty got more breaking news? Hang on.
Yeah, because on that point, they've both been ordered to go to the factory to apologise to everyone that works there.
Good.
And other breaking news, which is really weird, they've both been called to the steward's office.
It's happening right now, actually.
About the other incident at turn 3 with Raikkonen and Ocon, as if they're being called as a witness to the stand or something. I have no idea what's going on there.
That makes no sense.
Irony for you.
I've got a good stat that someone's put in chat, which is actually quite interesting. Every driver in the championship, bar 2 people, have points.
Yep.
Grosjean and Sorokin are the only unfortunate ones with 0 points, but that's great. Everyone gained a point. I think this is unheard of, actually.
Yeah, what's the stat as well? I love this stat. 8 out of the 10 teams scored today. Fantastic to see. It's what we want, bit of racing, but very quickly before we jump to Q&A, I'm going to come to each of you. I'll do it alphabetically if I can remember my alphabet. Anything you want to add on the race today, Chaz?
Not really. I went with the Verstappen Ricciardo incident because I'm sure you've already talked about it.
Just a bit.
I'm not sure yet who is absolutely, if there is absolutely anyone at fault. I have to see more replays because it wasn't quite decisive at the time. But yeah, them two, just a bit too aggressive. And I will say, because I was watching the stream just before I came on and you were talking about debris, I will say, if the debris was put there literally just after the safety car restart, then I can kind of understand why it was still on the racetrack, but that doesn't excuse it because they still had, 2 minutes to go and pick it up.
Yeah. Jonty, anything you want to add, mate?
No, I think the one thing that people should really read to it, I think we did cover it briefly, is the pace, the sheer raw pace that the Renaults had at the start.
Yeah.
The first 10, 15 laps. They were really up there, both of them. I mean, they took the Red Bulls pretty much with ease and were looking very strong until all sorts of chaos started happening.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What about you, Ryan?
Well, debris situation again. They should have at least done another lap just to make sure. We'll give a heads up though to the FIA for the awesome Halo graphics. I have to say, I mean, it makes it look prettier. I've got to say. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
That's probably because it hides them a bit.
Yeah.
it hides it. It's just like last season. Just feels all. I like it. I think it's awesome to have. More on the race, I do agree with Jonty's point about Renault. I think they had such a stellar start and then they just lost it completely. Well, Sainz's tyres went. They could have gone a lap earlier in the pit stops and they wouldn't have lost much because I think they lost like 3-4 seconds on one lap, and that's what brought the two Red Bulls back. Red Bull situation, you all know what I feel about that, so I won't go into that anymore. And just let the team decide what they do with it. And I had one point in there. Vettel bottled it, which is obviously going to happen. But he went for it, and Bottas should have won the race.
Yeah,
But
I think
because of debris.
Yeah, exactly.
And it annoys me, as you well know.
I'm just going to say we had what can only be described as a crap race in Australia. Really, one major talking point, maybe two if you include the Haas one, but 3 races back to back, absolutely brilliant. And overtaking crisis. What overtaking crisis? To be fair, we are about to go to Spain, so I probably shouldn't have said that. So we'll soon see the overtaking crisis back. I can promise you that. Let's hop into Q&A then, so you can start popping your questions in the chat. Be gentle with the spamming. We will try and get to as many as we can. Spain, while we're waiting for questions to come in, going to be a bit dull, I think. I've got this horrible feeling, Jonty, that we're just going to end up with a bit of a snooze fest after 3 belters.
It can happen. We know what the track's like, but let's keep fingers crossed. We want more people at the top. We need some Mercedes and Ferraris going out just to tighten things up a bit more so it stays dramatic the whole year.
Is there going to be an F1 Worth Fantasy League? Not on the F1 website, no, because they decided to start it despite being the official website 3 races in. So I went with, I've forgotten who went with, Grid Rivals in the end. So if you want to join Discord, it is on there, so you can feel free to join in. It's all pinned and whatnot that you do on Discord. So opinions on the McLaren B-Spec car, John T. We'll start with you, mate.
It'll be better. I don't think it will be the dramatic jump forward that they think it's going to be. It'll probably take them a bit closer to the Renaults. That's about it.
Yeah, kind of feel that way a little bit as well. I just hope they're not pinning too much on it. I don't get them, honest. I said it in yesterday's qualifying report. Really pants, really, when it comes to qualifying pace, but seem to be able to bounce back in Grand Prix. I mean, yeah, just, I suppose, points are handed out on a Sunday and that's all that matters. But at the end of the day, if you're starting higher up the grid, you're going to pick up more points when these things happen. So, should Ferrari pick Leclerc next season? I'd be tempted to say one swallow doesn't make a summer. It's a long way to go yet this season. I hate using sayings like that. Why did I do it? But yeah, he's got to be in the frame, hasn't he, Ryan? He's got to be in contention at least.
After this race, he does. Apparently, they've got like an exclusivity negotiation thing till I believe it's July, from what I've heard. But apparently, Ricciardo's come out saying it's all a lot of rubbish. I think after today, I think his relationship with Red Bull will be a little bit sour, and it will just open the rumor mills once again for him. And Twitter will be probably exploding with things saying, "Oh, Ricciardo's going to go to Ferrari." I mean, at that situation, I feel that at the start of the season, obviously, I would have put Leclerc in for next year if he performs exceptionally well. And we can't base it off one race, obviously. but he's had some decent finishes so far this year. I think he picked up 12th. I think was his best finish prior to this one at Bahrain.
Yeah.
And
Still a good result for a Sauber, to be fair.
yeah, I mean, he's pushing. I mean, Ericsson's done as well to get up there with that car where it is at the minute. And if I was like Ferrari, I would probably go with youth going forward than Ricciardo, in my opinion. But I like Ricciardo to be in a big team and a bigger team and win races. With that Ferrari package, it looks pretty damn good for him to win a championship, and I want him to win a championship because I'm a fan of his. So I would like to see him win races more, but I'm on the so it's like a 50-50 balance with me. Leclerc for youth and many years to come, he's a future world champion. But for a fan side of things with Ricciardo, I would like him to win a championship. So I'm a little bit 50-50. But if I had to give a definite answer, I would go with Leclerc.
Yeah. Seeing a couple of people asking in chat. I'm sorry if I can't get to your names, guys. Asking if they think Van Dorn will be dropped next year. Chaz. I've said before, it's difficult with Van Dorn, isn't it? Because he's up against such a good teammate, so it's hard to kind of judge where he is. But I don't think he's been that bad this season.
No, I don't think he has. I mean, the start in Shanghai, it wasn't good, and that's why he didn't score points there. And I would say this weekend was probably his first weekend where he was poor, really. Because let's be honest, in practice and qualifying, he was absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And even though he scored points, I'd still say this weekend was poor. But let's be honest, the McLaren needs to improve. It's so poor. Yesterday was embarrassing for McLaren.
Yeah, it's kind of working with a bit of a dodgy car, but then Alonso is as well. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's I don't know.
One thing. Sorry,
on,
Sean.
mate, you're right.
One thing that I want to put in is obviously the pressure on Van Dorn this year as well. Of Lando Norris doing. I know it's been 2 races, but he has performed exceptionally well, and he's got to be banging on McLaren's door, going, I've got the pace, I have got the potential, I want that seat. And then there's like Spanish media reporting that Alonso's going to leave F1 at the end of the year. And obviously you've got his WEC commitments as well for the super season, as they like to brand it as well. And if he really enjoys that and is successful over there with Toyota, he may go over there full time and leave McLaren at the end of the year if the B-spec car, which they've hyped up so much over the last few weeks, has to deliver at Spain. Otherwise, they're going to get a lot of media coming to them and be like, it's same old again. They've got a massive. This is. I think it's make or break from Spain onwards. It's make or break for McLaren in terms of will Alonso stay with them and believe in the project that they're going with now, or would he leave completely and do something else? And then they'll obviously keep Van Dorn if that happens, and then bring up either Nick de Vries or Lando Norris or even someone else in the paddock currently to fill their boots. And it's going to be interesting. But I would love to see Norris. Norris is a great driver. He's a great lad. Met him in real life. He's a lovely chap, and he has the pace. So it's going to be intriguing next race and see how they go. But make or break.
Yeah. I met him at Autosport as well. He's one of those that's got a lot of time for people if you approach him. He is a nice guy, but De Vries is a difficult one as well because he was pretty decent last year, but he's been a bit scrappy this year. So I don't know. What did you want to say, John T?
No, you're saying when you're talking about Alonso managed to drag that around with the broken floor. I'm just going to put a link to a tweet in the chat. Oh, no, I'm not allowed to because this isn't the right account.
Oh, you're not. He's not in his right account, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Pop it on Discord and get one of them to share it in the chat for you. I'm sure ST or Racing will do it. So, seen a couple of people asking about Perez. There is no penalty for Perez, just to confirm that one. Go on, John T.
Yeah, because someone's tweeted a photograph of the back of Alonso's car, and there is a colossal chunk of his diffuser missing on the back corner.
Oh, yes.
And that would be a massive amount of downforce gone. So it just makes the drive even more impressive. And something else that just popped up, something weird from Pirelli, the super soft, the longest stints did a lap longer than the soft.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That is very odd.
And was obviously faster. But the soft had a faster time than the ultra soft.
Just looking for questions. There's so many coming in, so it's and people like mid conversation with each other as well. So I'm trying not to answer their questions when they're arguing with each other. So, the proper petrol head got your name right this week. When will Grosjean retire? I don't know if he's going to be retired as much as he might be dropped if he's not careful, Chaz.
What he did under the safety car is unforgivable. I'm sorry. That was he 7th or 6th? Something like that? I think he was.
I think he was, yeah. He was somewhere around there, wasn't he?
He was 7th.
I'm sorry, to do that is so poor. And I know, yes, he had cold tyres, but come on. Seriously? You're like 5 laps from the end and then you just go and bin it. That terrible. And I will say as well about Grosjean is all weekend he's been awful. Locking up, spinning, escape roads, spinning again. He's just doing so poor at the minute.
Contribution from Yokoyama, I hope I said that right. It says, love your vids and love this post-race chat. One question, well done, Baku. Absolutely. They seem to have nailed it again this year, so can't disagree with that. Thank you so much for your contribution. That does mean a hell of a lot, so that's awesome. What happened between Gasly and Magnussen? I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest, I just saw that. I'm not entirely sure. They touched. That's expert analysis from Ryan LAC3. They touched.
Always bringing you great analysis.
Ocon versus Raikkonen, whose fault I'm calling that first lap racing incident. I think we all pretty much agreed on that one, didn't we? Oh, Chaz didn't give an opinion on that during the stream.
It looked like a racing incident, and when I look back, it probably was.
Yeah. Gasly was in 7th. He was looking good. I think I tweeted he was, again, a good bounce back for him, possibly good points. Shout out to Hartley as well. Got his first point today. That's awesome to see. Toro Rosso surprising us all on their race pace rather than a one-lap pace. But yeah, should drivers have a button that alerts the FIA so they can talk directly to the FIA? Asks Vlogging at Charlie. Great name. They've kind of more or less got that. That's what, when we hear this, tell Charlie this, that and the other, and the team go and basically repeat what they said in more detail, they're kind of talking to Charlie directly then, aren't they? But I think if you add another button to that steering wheel for drivers to talk to the FIA, I think we're just going to have chaos, and Charlie Whitey's never going to get anything done because they're never happy, are they, drivers, Jonty?
No, I mean, as Lewis proved today. I mean, he barely had a smile to crack even after winning. Like, cheer up.
I think he felt a bit bad for his teammate. I think it was difficult to his hair. Bad for his teammate who just had a very difficult end to the Grand Prix.
No, I'm sticking to he felt bad for his hair. Everyone else did.
Daniel B says, bit new to F1. Has a consensus been made on whose fault it was between the two Red Bulls? I still think a bit 50-50. It looks like Red Bull are going down that route and the stewards haven't penalised them. So that officially, I think, is just going to be classed as a racing incident, but it's still absolutely crazy. Yeah. Luca Pan saying on the Hamilton comment, Jonty, hard to enjoy something you didn't earn. I think that's a little bit harsh. He did get lucky, but he did still have to be there to do it. But I get what you're saying. I was about to read a mod message then, telling people off. Some saying Ricciardo's fault. Do you think Pirelli will use the hard tyre at any point?
No.
No.
No way.
It's a waste.
We're getting too much fun, aren't we, with the softer tyres?
It's a waste of a tyre, let's be honest. I mean, having a hyper soft is great. Great for racing and strategies. I mean, they should have used it this week, if I'm honest with you, but would have made some more spicy racing instead of what was going to be, if it wasn't for a safety car, one-stop race.
Yeah.
Would have been a little bit bland, and I like having multiple pit stops, and just gives a bit more strategic racing as well, and they can push it more. But I don't know why they came with that hard tire. It's just a waste of time when they could have been making the tires more exciting, for degradation and durability as well. So waste of time. They won't use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when you got to think the super softs did 40 laps.
Exactly. And like the Ultrasoft went, I think 19 laps was Carlos Sainz did, I think, before he
Yeah,
quit.
longest stint was 21.
21 laps. I mean, that's nearly half distance. Come on, Preddy, sort yourself out. Come on, we need some faster tire. We need some mega Ultrasofts or something, That's
Yeah.
all.
Somebody asking what I think about DC's comments. You kind of mentioned him a bit ago, John T. I don't know what they are. Was he being
Well,
a dick,
DC
basically?
David Coulthard firmly put the blame entirely on Ricardo for that. He said it's 100% absolutely Ricardo's fault,
Okay.
which I don't get.
Yeah, classic average driver comment. Sorry, I was never a DC fan. I was a Schumacher fan growing up. So when I was a kid, I hated Mika Hakkinen. I hated David Coulthard. Now I've grown up, I quite like Mika Hakkinen, but I'm not keen on David Coulthard. Natural rivalry when you're a kid. 100% Red Bull Racing's fault, says Special Forces. Daniel wants to know what our opinion is about refueling. I say don't bring it back. People talk about the brilliance of refueling and how much more exciting the race would be, but go back to when we had refueling, the races were more boring than they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the passes happened in pit lane instead of on the track.
Yeah. Let's be honest, most of Channel 4 presenters are crap, maybe except Chandok. He's fine. I don't watch Channel 4, that's why I missed that today. John wants to know who had the fastest car today. I think Ferrari. Quickly, Chaz, do you think Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull?
It was Ferrari. Vettel was in control until he pitted. And then what happened. And I want to ask, because I think you guys may have been watching more closely, is when they went through the pit lane for the safety car, Vettel didn't have to pit, did he? Let's be honest. He didn't have to.
No. Well,
I don't think he should have.
he
Track
didn't.
position.
He didn't have to. The problem was Bottas was going ultra soft, and so did Hamilton. So he would have been passed by both of them anyway. So
Yeah,
he didn't have to. But
I'm not sure he would, because it's like, I think he could have held on for 4 laps, because the Ferrari is better at warming its tyres up, as we saw on the restart. And you don't know, Bottas might have done what Vettel did to Bottas on the restart. What happened. So I would have kept Vettel out and just, hoped. Because I think Vettel probably would have finished second at worst if he had stayed out.
yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's difficult. It's one of those you've got to make a snap decision things, isn't it? So it's quite tricky, and we all go back with hindsight as sort of sofa armchair fans, if you like. Sort of we can see it and maybe they don't, but it's all with hindsight, I guess. Somebody did actually, before I'm going to take a couple of quick fire questions in just a minute before we end, but somebody did mention the incident between Hartley and Gasly on Saturday. I want to have a moan, and I'll tell you why I want to have a moan. My comments on that video for the qualifying report are full of people saying that it's Toro Rosso's fault for not telling Brendan Hartley to stay off the racing line when he had a puncture. He is 28 years old and a world endurance champion. If the team have to tell him that, he shouldn't be racing. It's as simple as that. That's the kind of thing. Hence why I said in the video that I didn't like saying it because it sounds condescending, but it's the kind of thing I'd expect from a 17-year-old rookie in their first race, not a 28-year-old world endurance champion. So it was not the team's fault. It was 100% Hartley's fault. It was not an exaggeration, because if he's in the catch fencing and there's debris in the crowd, it's not an overreaction. So stupid from Hartley, and he should know better at the end of the day. So it's not the team's fault. And quite frankly, John T, we had a bit of a moan about it together, didn't we, last night when we were sort of testing levels and that for your new mic. But quite frankly, if they need to tell a 28-year-old world endurance champion to stay off the racing line, then what's next? Are they going to have to tell him that to turn the steering, to turn left, you need to turn the wheel left, and to turn right, you need to turn the wheel right? Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah,
it was. I mean, there is one tiny little scrap of information which can be used to defend him. I told you this one last night. It's the fact that in World Endurance Championship, the very slower cars, the GT cars, are told, hold your line. The LMP cars will go around you, because it's much easier for a car that's significantly faster to go around. Whether he got a little bit confused by what was going on and did that, I don't know. But he didn't even do that. He didn't hold anything. He just kind of sat there, saw a car coming and wiggled a bit. Like, God, what are you doing? Just get out of the way. Get out of the way. Even if he'd stayed on the racing line, it would have been better because the whole offline would have been free. As it was, Gasly had a gap not quite big enough to go for, or on the other side, another gap that wasn't quite big enough and risky. It was just ridiculous. And to me, he's not mentally ready for the instant everything in pressure that F1's got. World Endurance Championship, of course, there's pressure, but you got to think these are hours and hours long races. Even the qualifying is a very long, drawn out process. F1's all get it now or you're done.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ready for that.
I think for me, the surprising thing with him was his reaction afterwards. Will Buxton tweeted, and I've seen some pictures since of him after the incident. He was white as a sheet, absolutely shaking. He was devastated and terrified by what happened. That concerns me as well, because as a racing driver, as bad as an incident is, you can't react like that, because that worries me a little bit. But that's probably a story for another day. I'm going to take a couple of quick fire questions, and then if we'll try and keep them to 1 or 2 word answers. But the 4 of us between us are pretty gobby, so there's probably little chance of that happening. So do you think Verstappen could improve massively were he a more careful driver? Yes, for me. But I don't want him to change his style, as said in my video. Just think before he does things.
Yeah, I agree. If he kind of just tries to anticipate certain things happening, because I think that's one problem with him, is he doesn't think of what could happen. He just does it, and then whatever happens, happens.
What do you think about the Hamilton quote about the recovery truck for Grosjean? I'm inclined to agree with him, to be honest. But then at that point, the race is neutralised, so they shouldn't be going that quick at that point anyway. So tricky one, I'd say, Jonty, for that, because like I say, the race is neutralised, so you can't really put it in the same boat as, say, a Bianchi incident, because that was under full racing speed almost. But
yeah, I mean, you have to say that they shouldn't be, nothing should be able to happen when they're crawling around behind the safety car. There shouldn't be any risk of them colliding with that truck at all. And then Grosjean goes and sticks it in the wall at that speed. So there is a point to it.
Yeah. Will we have more than 11 teams post 2021? I hope so. Ricciardo's only chance to win a World Drivers' Championship is to go to Mercedes. Is that true? Ryan, you're a Ricciardo fan. Do you think that's his best shot of a title right now, or do you think Ferrari will be better for him?
Either team, really. Simple as that. Both. I've got nothing else to say unless Red Bull decide to come out of nowhere with some development, and obviously there may be rumours of them going to Honda maybe next year.
Yeah.
In the engine department. I mean, that could sway. I don't know. Then Aston Martin coming in 2020. Is it going to be a flop like Honda was when they came into the hybrid era? You just don't know these things. But
no, it's a big decision for him, but I think he's already said he won't sign anything for more than 2 years, and I think that's a very sensible thing to do, because you just don't know post 2021. We saw in 2009 McLaren and Ferrari early season were right down the back end of the field, so you just never know what's going to happen when we get a rules reset. Why didn't Max get a corner cutting penalty? As far as I know from that one, from watching it back, it's because he did cut the corner quite a bit, as in he didn't even bother taking it, but he did back right off again to let Sainz get back on the back of him, so he didn't gain or gain advantage or whatever the other one is that Marty Brundle was on about. By the way, actually, I'm going to have another moan very quickly. I don't think anyone from Sky Sports will ever be watching us, but if they are, don't ever do a grid walk if Martin Brundle's not available again, because that was absolute dog turd. Quite frankly, absolutely awful to watch.
I was like, switch channel, wait 20 minutes, come back. It was horrific. I did love the bit though with Ricciardo and Simon Lazenby when there's like, oh, I'll punch you in the stomach.
Yeah, just give me a minute, mate, or I'm going to sucker punch you in the stomach.
that was a highlight.
I just wish he'd just done it, because he'd never jump in on a bloody race or a debrief between driver and mechanic again, would he? After that,
think of the views they would get. That is the definition of clickbait right there for Sky Sports, to get people across to get their subscription to watch Sky Sports F1. Commentators getting punched in the stomach. Join us.
I'm going to Silverstone this year. I might try and get on the grid and try that one. That's a good clickbait idea. Nice one, Ryan. Just before I get arrested for being on the grid when I don't have a pass. Vlogging from prison. Yeah, that escalated quickly. Just going to say there's one more question before we go. should there be penalties? Should there really be penalties for first lap incidents? Very quickly for each of us with this one, I'll start off just by saying, like I said earlier, if somebody is 100% to blame and they didn't need to do it, then yes, they should get a penalty. But if it's 50-50, 60-40 sort of thing, then I think just put it down as a racing incident on the first lap. I'll do it alphabetically again. Go to you for that one, Chaz.
Yeah, I agree. If it's 100%, someone at fault, then give them a penalty. But if it's not clear, then just leave it, at that.
Yeah. Jonty?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Too much is happening on the first lap. Maybe limit it to sort of the first 3 corners where they're free to try stuff without fear of a penalty. But once they've got sort of past the first sector, then maybe look at penalties.
Yeah. Ryan, last one, mate.
Well, I mean, you've all answered it for me. But yeah, if it was a definite slam dunk, like, I'm just going to give as an example, the Ocon Raikkonen incident is a good one to describe it. If it was definitely someone's fault, yep, then definitely a penalty. But if it's both of them, like, 50-50, as you said, Sean, racing incident.
Yeah, I completely agree. You've got to remember as well, it's all so fueled at the start of the race, isn't it? Everyone's full of passion and I can't believe we're going to end the stream with the word testosterone, but there you go, I just did. There you go, it's just been one of those. Yeah, awesome to have all 3 of you on for this one. It's great to get lots of opinions and a Red Bull fan as well. I will inevitably talk to you all in a few, but thank you very much for joining me, Chaz, Jonty and Ryan.
Yep, thank you for having me on. And as well, I'll say, if anyone is sub to Sean and also is sub to me, then thank you for 4,000 subscribers, which I've just hit.
Oh, congrats, mate.
Live on stream.
Bang on stream. It's not even your stream, you cheeky sod. But yeah, congratulations, mate. Cheeky
Thanks.
plug there from Chaz. But yeah, I'll talk to you all in a bit. Thanks for joining me for this one. It's been awesome.
Yeah, let's hope it's like this for the next one. See
It
ya.
wants to be.
Yep.
See you later.
See you, guys.
See ya.
Yep, thank you to Ryan, Chaz, and Jonty 3. We are overrunning quite substantially, but we're overrunning because I got all 3 of those on, and also because there was just so bloody much to talk about. But it's been absolutely mega. Thank you very much as well for record views. 1,700, I think we hit during the stream, so fantastic. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. I will be back tomorrow with the full race review. Somehow going to try and keep that under 10 minutes, but I can't ever see that happening. And then going to be the next episode of the F1 Word podcast is going to be up on Tuesday on SoundCloud and on YouTube, because it's a bit of a special one, if you like, that me and Jonty are going to be recording in just a few minutes, actually. So yeah, we're going to go over that, and that'll be up on Tuesday on SoundCloud and on YouTube. After that, it'll be Thursday, but don't forget to join us as well for all of this again with qualifying reports and live streams and whatnot for the Spanish Grand Prix. And I'll be live again next Sunday at 6 p.m. as usual UK time for our usual weekly Sunday live stream. In the meantime, you can follow me on social media. I've got 4 now. I'm actually using Instagram. Links to all of those, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Discord, are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.